Former world heavyweight champion Joseph Parker. How you doing?
Very good, Dave. Very good.
Let's start with that. How does that sound? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Former world heavyweight champion, when you think about that?
I think two parts to it. It's nice that I was able to achieve being world champion, but it would have been nicer to hold on to it and still be champion. So it's a good achievement, but I want it back, and I want it again. And I want it more this time.
Why do you want it more this time?
I think we touched on it before, where I did do it for myself, obviously because I'm in boxing, and I love the sport and I got a passion for it, but more so for my dad, Kevin, Barry, my coach at the time, the team, and trying to make other people happy.
Did it come too soon?
Listen,
You're 24 years old.
24 years old. I think everything happens for a reason and all in good time. And at that time, was meant to happen. It was meant to be that I was champion of the world at 24 years old. But
Ruiz looks good, doesn't it? It's aged very well.
It's aged well, the win over Andy Ruiz. It was a very close fight. I know it's a close fight myself, but for me at the end of the fight, I knew and I felt that I won the fight. And everyone can say, yeah, listen, he won the fight, or it was a very close fight, but I won the fight. On paper, I won the fight. So it's aged well, though. He's done a lot since then. Very happy for him and what he's achieved. Beat Joshua, lost to Joshua. You know, he's had a good win recently over Ortiz, and he's lining up to fight for a world title again. So he's achieved a lot, and I've achieved some good things since that fight. But there's more to come. There's more for me to achieve.
Do you look at things like that as a fighter? When Andy Ruiz, someone that you've beaten, goes into a fight with Anthony Joshua and he beats him, do you look at that as, I look good now?
Yeah. Do I look at it as a... How did I look at it? When I was at the fight, I was there in New York, watching the Joshua and Ruiz fight. And I thought, damn, look, I thought both these guys, would be great if I was in the ring fighting myself. And then when he beat him, I was sort of, I sort of knew that Ruiz had a chance to beat him because I was in the ring with him and I know how dangerous he is. But then it was a bit of a surprise because I've been in the ring with Joshua and I know how he fights. So I was just like, whoa, at the time. But it was Ruiz's time to win at that time, and he did it for himself and his family, and it was a great achievement for him.
And what about Joseph Parker then? It's the big one, September 24th. It's coming up. It's right around the corner.
Yeah.
You've been in camp with Tyson Fury. He has been a retired fighter and then an unretired fighter in the time that you've been here. Are you going to spar him?
Am I going to spar Tyson? I haven't sparred Tyson. No. We've done a lot of having him around, but we haven't done any, full-on sparring.
And what's the reason for that, from your perspective? Because, that's an opportunity for you. You said you're not going to fight him.
Yeah.
Because you like brothers. But sparring's different, right? And you've got an opportunity to spar with the best heavyweight in the world.
Yeah.
So from your side, why do you think no?
I have no idea. I said, I thought, I think Andy did mention that it would be great to do some sparring, but just one of those things where it's mentioned and talked about, but it's never happened.
He actually said to me, "I'm not going to let them spar because it's like two lions, and two alphas."
Yes, and we know that Tyson and what he's achieved, and sparring isn't. A lot of people say sparring is the easier side of things. Sparring is not easy. When you're sparring, you're going all out. You're trying to practice your moves. You're trying to get the better of your sparring partner. You're bringing in guys who are highly ranked, and the best fighters that you can bring for sparring to prepare for your fight. So sparring is not easy. So when you have two guys who think they're both alpha, or any sparring partners coming to the gym, everyone thinks they're alpha, So when you're in the ring sparring, it's a big clash, and everyone's just going for it. So sometimes sparring is harder. I wouldn't say harder than the fight, but as hard as the fight, because you're just going all out and all in for the rounds that you're doing.
You're spending a lot of time around in you know, like living with him and going on runs with him and that, and people are saying that he's rubbed off onto you when, you know, you're doing call-out videos to the camera and you're saying, "I'm going to beat you, you lump," to Joe Joyce. Do you agree that he's rubbed off onto you a little bit?
Listen, the more you hang with someone, the more you're, I wouldn't say influenced, but yeah, it does rub off on you. And listen, that's not my style. You know, my style is similar to Joe Joyce, approaching the fight, wanting to fight and wanting to bash the person up, but just doing it your own way and quietly and just focusing on what's important. But yeah, as I said, I do some of those videos. It's all a bit of fun, but it's not who I am.
It's all good fun though, isn't it?
It's all good fun though. Listen,
pointing down the camera,
pointing down the camera, you're a lump. I'm gonna smash your face in, and then he does it back. You know, he replies.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then we're going back and forth on social media. I think it's the softest build up to a fight.
I think so.
It's sort of like thing has been okay. I know it's been pretty hard, but you'll be okay in fight night.
Have you heard whispers or something?
I may have heard whispers, or I may haven't. And I know he did have an injury, so you know, in order for us to put on the best fight, both guys have to be ready. And I do hope that his injury has cleared. You know, he did show in the last fight with Hammer that he was good to go, so he should be good to go now. And in order for us to put up the best fight and bring the best out of each other, we have to be in the best shape, both of us. So I want to fight the best Joe Joyce out there.
Your brother's up in camp now as well. What's the thinking behind that?
Brother John Parker, my brother John always joins me towards the end of camp. With the Chisora fights, he wasn't able to come for one of them because of, you know, COVID and isolation and, you know, things like that. But he's able to be here now, and it's great to have him here. Got him, Paddy Donovan, Andy, myself, and Anthony Presley in the house, and we're having a great time.
But with John in particular, is that an extra sort of layer of comfort because he is a little bit of home?
Yeah, a layer of comfort, but also he's my best friend. And I love having my brother around. And my brother can, you know, when he's here, he can tell what stage I'm at in camp and how I'm looking. And, you know, if I'm ready or not, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where he's been to a lot of camps and has seen me train, he's seen me prepare for a fight, so he knows, he's the only other person that knows how I am.
Has he always been your best friend? Your whole life?
My whole life. My brother's been my best friend ever since he was born. We did everything together. So it's good to have him here. Obviously now that I have a family, my daughters are my best friends. But out of that, my daughters and my wife.
Listen,
and my wife. But out of that,
you better apologise, by the way.
My daughters and my wife are my best friends. Best friends, but John is my best friend.
But John's your best friend.
Yeah.
Your family, your daughters and your wife, are they coming up for the fight, or are you just going there? Do they go to any of your fights? My
daughters have been to 2 fights. My eldest daughter has been to 2 fights, but for this fight they're going to stay in New Zealand. I would love to have them here, and I'd love them to be at the fights, but my daughter's in school, and my wife has a bit more help back home. You know, if they're here in camp, then I'll feel like I have to help and I have to make time. But I've mentioned it before, I'm very blessed to have a understanding and patient wife. Like, she knows that I'm here for work.
Well, she's your best friend.
And she's my best friend. And she's my best friend. So she said to me when we locked in a fight, you go and do what you have to do, and she'll stay home and look after our girls.
How's camp been? Has this been the best one ever?
This has been the best camp. This has been the best camp that I've ever
Why?
been
What
involved
makes it
in.
better than the Chisora camps?
More time with Andy. This is the 3rd camp with Andy, so we're learning. I feel like I'm learning more. I feel like he's added a few more things to my game. And then John's allowed to come up. And Paddy's here. Then I got Anthony Presley here making all the meals, which I haven't done before. And then Tyson's giving me his house. Like, just the whole setup and everything that we have to make it a great camp has happened, you know? So there's no real excuse. If I go into this fight for me, I'm going to win because I've had the best camp. And, you know, just being realistic, if I don't win, then I'm not good enough. But I am going to win.
What are your conversations like with Tyson away from the cameras? Do you talk about this? Do you talk about this fight coming up? Does he say, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that, be wary of this? Because he's got a kind of all-seeing eye in the heavyweight division. He gets it.
Yeah.
Does he talk to you about this fight?
We don't really have full-on discussions, no. But he does mention a few ideas that he has, you know. But then he respects the fact that it's Andy that's in charge of this. And he does, listen, Tyson's not afraid to give his advice and his help if he sees something that he can assist with and help with. So we've had a few discussions, but it's not really deep or long discussions, just a bit of advice here and there.
How much do you think you've come on as a fighter, being in this camp, being with Andy Lee, who's a great talker as well? He's from that Emmanuel Stewart school. I was speaking to him earlier. He says a lot of the time his training is just conversation. Yeah. And, you know, almost kind of programming you, I guess. But, I guess he's not going to say to you, I'm programming you, right? But that's what happens. And you've got Tyson there as well. How much do you think you are a better fighter now than what you were?
You know, I achieved a lot with Kevin, and I've mentioned it was a great time in my career where we became world champion, traveled all around the world. Then I started having performances that weren't the best, and there's no one to blame. It's just what happens sometimes. And with the new sort of setup and environment, the new coaching, I think it's revived me again as a fighter and gave me, you know, just a bit more drive. And I feel like being here, you know, we saw the first Chisora fight, close fight. The second fight we saw big improvements. And for the third fight we're going to see more improvements from the second fight. We're going to see a big jump and improvements, and, you know, in the style, combinations and fitness, ring IQ, everything. There's going to be more of a complete package, but that's not the end for me. There's still more camps ahead and more fights ahead, but for now, I just want to make those steps. You know, each fight there's improvements and there's things to work on.
Andy Lee said this could be an easy fight for you. Do you agree?
It could be if it's all up to me and how I approach this fight. Not taking anything away from Joe Joyce, not taking anything away from him. He's a hard fight. But if I can execute what I know I can, and what Andy knows I can, and what Tyson knows I can make it an easier night for us, or for me.
How much of this is going to be mental? Because he brings a lot of pressure. He's going to stick it right on you. Well, at least we think he will, right? That's how he fights. He's the juggernaut, and he suffocates his opponents, essentially. How much of this is going to be you not sort of succumbing in your head and keeping hold of that mental pressure?
A lot of it in camp. A lot of it's in camp right now. It's a lot of it's physical, and a little bit mental. But when it's closer to the fight and fight time, more of it's mental and less of it's physical. So we've been doing a lot of things to prepare in every aspect: physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, everything.
Can you give us any insight into some of that, the mental side of it? How are you preparing to not mentally fatigue under his pressure? When
you speak with someone like Andy every day about the fight, about the plan, about, you know, how we're going to approach the fight and what our tactics are and the goals, those are constant reminders. And when you say it so many times, it becomes ingrained in you. When you speak to your psychologist once a week, you know, he has ways of dealing with things and structures to put in place.
And you're speaking to a psychologist for this fight?
Yeah, I speak to a psychologist every fight.
Since when?
I spoke, you know, I started when I was with Andy Ruiz. I did a few fights after that. Joshua fight, Dillian Whyte fight. I think it's important. We even attend church on Sunday, my brother and I.
You've been doing that here?
Yeah, spiritual side of things, you know. There's an LDS church up the road, not far from us in Lancaster.
How does that help you?
Balance. Balance is everything.
So you've got chats with psychologists as well, and that's kind of, what kind of chats are you having there? What are they instilling in you?
Everything is simple. There's no need to overthink things. Everything's simple. It's just, this fight is just another fight. There's no need to do, when you have a tough fight, people go and do extraordinary things, change up their training and change a lot of things in camp. But this is just another fight.
Well, it's another fight that if you win, you're going to need to do it again. Most people don't want to fight Joe Joyce once. There is a rematch clause in there for Joe Joyce, so you would need to beat him twice in order to end this chapter of your career. It's quite the challenge, isn't it?
It's a challenge, but I've said it many times, I love challenges and I embrace challenges. And challenges bring out the best in myself. I think challenges bring out the best in a lot of people. And this is a challenge a lot of people don't want to take, or a lot of fighters don't want to take, because he is a big lump that keeps coming forward.
Well, there's a WBO interim title on the line now. There's been a real elevation in the status of this fight. So much more on the line now as well. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's great that we are able to fight for the interim, and it just gets us that much closer to fighting for the actual world title.
Do you think you'll have to dig deep in this fight?
Yeah, I'm going to have to dig deep in this fight. But again, it's all up to me and how I approach this fight. And if I can follow the plan, and if I can execute what me and Andy have in mind, if I can sustain what I'm doing from round 1 to round 12, or whatever it is, the rounds that we go to, it's going to be a good fight.
Are you expecting him to just come forward, or do you think he'll be a bit more cautious because you're one of the, if not the, best opponent that he'd have boxed?
I'm not really sure what Joe Joyce's plan is and his team.
Do you care?
I wouldn't say I don't care, but I'm more focused on myself and what my plan is.
Have you thought about knocking him out?
Yeah, I have. I've seen him get hit with a lot of punches, and my knockout ratio isn't the greatest or the worst, but I do have knockout power.
So have you envisaged it?
Yeah, I have. I envision knocking him out.
Do you want to talk me through it?
Yeah, boom. Straight on the chin.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
But that's a right hand straight down the pipe, right?
Straight down the pipe, yeah. Or a left hook. I'm not, I've pictured it in my head with different punches.
So you've got a variety of ways of knocking out Joe Joyce.
Yeah. It just has to land, listen, it has to land at the right time in a clean punch. And Joe Joyce can take a punch, but can he take a lot of punches? It'll all add up. He is tough and durable, but he has been knocked out in the past. Not as a professional.
Yeah, as a professional, yeah. We've only really seen him hurt a bit to the body by Bryant Jennings.
Bryant Jennings, yeah.
And that's actually the only fight that he's gone 12 rounds in. He's only been 12 rounds once in his career. You've been 12 rounds nine times in your career. I looked it up.
I wish there was less, I wish I had more knockouts.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is that something you read into to say that, well, you've definitely got 12 rounds in the tank, it's there? Or is it, well, Joe Joyce is knocking his guys out?
No, I've seen Joe Joyce has been 12 rounds once, he can do it again. Once you do it once, you can do it again many times. Look at mine. I've been there 9 times. But going the rounds isn't exciting. It's good to fight a smart fight and a good fight and get the win, but it's good to do it in a good fashion. And I'm sure we're going to be trading a lot of punches in this fight.
Do you think you're going to have to fight him in there? Because, look, I guess the theory is that if you're going to win this fight, he's very difficult to knock out. So maybe people are looking at your knockout ratio, looking at his chin, and saying maybe Joe Parker to win this fight is going to have to outbox Joe Joyce. But do you think you'll have to actually fight him and have a bit of a tear up in there with him?
Just depends on what Andy wants. It depends on what our plan is going into this fight. A bit of everything. Everything to win. This is a must win.
It's must win, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is this the most important fight of your career?
Right now, yeah, it is. This is the most important fight right now. And where I want to be. and what I want to achieve. But it all starts from here.
What's going to happen? Tell me.
September 24th is going to be a great night. Some great fights on the undercard. And then I'm going to go out there and finish the night off with a bang. And I'm going to win and then go home to my family and celebrate and enjoy. And Joe Joyce can come back again. And, you know, he can try and beat me again in December.
All right. Thanks. Good to speak to you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Joe.
Joe Joyce, Joe Parker. Why are these two giants with us here?
Because these two giants are going to fight each other and see who's the best giant.
Listen, I'm very excited to be signing with Boxer and you know, Sky.
You know, Joe Parker's not the ranked #1. He's not the mandatory. Joe Joyce is. This is the Joe Joyce business. You want to get that spot, you've got to beat Joe Joyce.
Look, taking the lead, we don't follow. We need it now, not tomorrow. Don't care what they say. Not changing the pace.
Why don't we just make the fight happen? Just because he's on BBC Sports and I'm on Sky doesn't mean we can't make it happen.
It's hard to be one of the greats. Whatever it takes, put that on the plate. Life is a gamble, we raising the stakes. Moving the bar up so high. Been on our grind for life. Bringing the light, you just so bright. We shining.
Edging closer to the inner circle. Just got Joe Parker to beat.
Changing the world with this rhyme and this price.
A lot of people don't want to fight Joe Joyce because he's got an engine on him and he can take a punch and he can do a lot of damage.
Chase to the sun down. We on the chase to the sun up. What's up? Leading the line when we run up. Chasing, chasing, chasing. Every day we chasing, chasing, chasing. No time to be wasted.